St. Lucia. This is Open Mic, and we've now started the fourth and final segment of our program. When we left off, we were discussing the situation, the effects of VAT on the island, and it was highlighted a moment ago that, even the Prime Minister himself, when they first talked of VAT, referred to VAT as an oppressive tax, a tax that would rest on the shoulders of the poor. When we were in the supermarket business and people were shouting about high prices, people didn't want to understand what happened when the VAT came into being. And a suggestion was made by one of our employees that because along with that, the subsidy on rice, flour, and sugar were taken off. And, there are two ways of looking at that, Lionel. In one sense, I can understand what the Prime Minister was doing because rice, flour, and sugar was given for everybody. But it really should have been for the poor. And what we told the Prime Minister should have been done, he could have actually introduced a food stamp situation whereby the people, because we have to look at the fact that sometimes people from another island could come in and buy rice, flour, and sugar, and that would have been paid for from the coffers of the government. But really and truly, if you set up food stamps, you could actually have the people who really needed it. But that having been said, that was not done, okay? And people got clobbered because they got a double whammy, because they got the VAT and they got those things taken away from them. Another area that people have been shouting about is the fact that they have taken away the transportation of the children. I mean, that is so hard for people. I mean, when I think it was it one of the shows, or not, just on the papers this morning, someone wrote an article that said that if you go to Cashie's on a Saturday morning and see the amount of people looking for handouts from various people, and it's growing. Now, these are all signs that something is wrong, and really and truly, I mean, I cannot believe that the Prime Minister can be so heartless not to listen to what is going on, because we are in a lot of trouble. I mean, people who have been away for some time, including Jeff Stewart himself, when they walk around Cass Street, I've had people come in I had someone on my show last week, a Canadian, and who was here 4 or 5 years ago. And the lady said to me, "What's wrong with your country?" I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Everything looks so run down, and that cannot be right, because, when people live in despair, it can be very, very heartbreaking."
Mr. Chastity, one of the things, and we spoke earlier about honesty in politics and dishonesty in politics, one of the things that really St. Lucia must, and politicians must take note of, when the Prime Minister was in opposition, he called VAT an oppressive tax and many other things.
Yes.
We need the type of politician that will come back to us and say, "Listen, that's what I said, and I was wrong." But I have no choice in the matter, and I apologize for my error. The Prime Minister hasn't yet come out and say, because his actions show that he knows, according to him, it was an oppressive tax, but he's applied an oppressive tax. But instead, what he's saying, the opposition was going to do it anyway. The opposition didn't say it was an oppressive tax. The opposition said they had to apply tax for whatever reason. He said it was an oppressive tax, and he was in opposition, making St. Lucia believe that he wasn't going to go that way. So this is one of the things that needs to be done, the honesty of politicians. And Dr. Kenny Anthony needs to understand that he must respond to the people's requests. The question about moving the tax or moving the subsidy on the rice, sugar, and flour, that is related directly to the poor man. The poor man will feel it most. The poor man will feel it most. So the oppressive tax and his behavior shows that he didn't really mind if the poor man suffer even a little more. And that is what we must
and it's so hard to believe, because, I mean, he talks of having a social conscience.
That's right, and he put his hand on his chest, and he has a technique, He's very good at that. He can sell sand to the beach, you on the beach. You know, because that's the way the Prime Minister is. Maybe a good politician.
Yeah,
You
right.
know? But what I'm saying is that St. Lucia right now is crying out for help. And the person that can help is the Minister of Finance,
Yeah.
the Honorable Kennedy Anthony.
Right.
And he must understand that he must listen to the cries of the people. And the spin doctors around must be careful.
Yeah.
Because they embarrassed him, because some of them were arguing for the 3-month pass-through system
Yeah.
very vehemently, very, very
Vocal.
strong, vocal, you know, giving you every excuse why the 3-month system. And then the Prime Minister in his press release says, it makes sense. It makes sense to look at it differently.
But from that, having said that, wouldn't you say he has indirectly apologized by saying that? It made sense?
Well, no, he has given in, but very diplomatically.
Diplomatically. Well, he's a good politician.
He's a good politician.
Yeah.
He's come and say it makes sense. Maybe he's not saying that Alan Chastney made sense.
Right, yeah.
You know?
It
but
makes
he's-
sense.
Yeah. But he said it makes sense. Although what he's saying, it made sense, Alan Chastney was saying all along, weeks and months
Tell me
before.
something. That's another situation. You know, being the father of Alan, you know, I try to distance myself a lot from politics because St. Lucia does not belong to us.
Don't waste your time, Mr. Chastney.
yeah.
They'll always connect you.
Yeah, but tell me something. What is the real grouse, you would say, between Dr. Anthony and Alan Chastney? What is the problem?
I really don't know, because I don't know what the fuss is all about.
Yeah.
We boast about Barack Obama being a black man being president of the United States.
Yes.
We all want to associate ourselves with that.
Right.
Then we come into St. Lucia and talking about white man. A lot of people are very racial, you know.
Okay.
A lot of people who beat their chest and talk about morality on TV and talk about, you know, doing things right. They have deep down in their heart the hatred for the white man.
Okay.
But we depend on the white man. I'm not saying that Alan or you are white men,
Yeah.
because you are St. Lucians.
Yes.
Regardless of what color you have. We
Right.
have Indian,
Yeah.
we have Portuguese, we have all kinds of people here.
Right.
We have Chinese who are now St. Lucians.
Correct.
25 years from now, we might have a Chinese in parliament.
That's right.
We might have a Korean in parliament. We might have a Taiwanese
Right.
in the house. And he might aspire to be a prime minister of St. Lucia.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
So I think that what we have is hypocrisy,
Yeah.
you know, in the hearts of some people, some politicians themselves.
Yeah.
So we must put that in front. So this thing about white people, when we depend on them to come to St. Lucia to assist us in building our country,
Yeah.
we there complaining about race,
Yeah.
about, you know, and economic status, and which is unnecessary. When Honorable Stephenson King was Prime Minister,
Yeah.
there were all kinds of cries that he wasn't educated.
Yeah.
He wasn't good enough to be our Prime Minister. He wasn't good enough. He didn't have much education. He didn't have a doctorate. You know, and the same people now are complaining for something else. They're moving all around.
Yeah.
You know, and this is why I believe that I came out and put my hat in the ring of being aligned to a party, because people like me must come into the politics and change the thinking. We must stop telling St. Lucians that we must hate the white man or we must do anything because a man have money in his pocket. We all have children overseas who will come back even richer than some of us. And we must be able to make sense and stop this foolishness that these politicians are given. People like Dr. Kenny Anthony and Philip J. Pierre, and those persons who come out with hatred in their hearts. The behavior in the house is another one. It's, in this day and age, when we invite school children
Yes.
to watch the parliamentarians, they're chatting and shouting at each other like there's a calypso for that.
Yeah.
Hung dogs in the house.
Okay.
You know, and they bickering, unmanly. Now, the argument, Mr. Chastney, is that in China, it's done this way and this and that way. But we have a disciplined society in the Caribbean.
Yes.
But we have some hung dogs in society as well. We must be able to filter them out.
Yeah. Now, what is your take? I've been following a little bit on the Mary Isaac affair.
Okay.
Yes.
In what aspect?
Well, in two aspects. One, what has happened actually in the CSA recently, and what happened in Parliament.
Well, that will have to go to a legal decision, in my view, because there's the constitution of the land vis-a-vis the constitution of the CSA.
Okay.
And I believe that the constitution of the land, from what I understand, supersedes any constitution.
Right.
Right? So that I would like to leave that to
the courts.
to the courts to settle if it gets there.
And the legal lines,
if it gets there. I'm not qualified to that. That's my position. But the question is about her walking through the floor.
Yeah.
I think Mary Isaac, Senator Mary Isaac, if I may say so, did it because she didn't realize, unknowingly, right? Although you're supposed to have enough time trained and so on.
Yes.
I think before you get in there, you should have enough time to train to know the do's and the don'ts in the house. But what was more appalling to me was the behavior of the Prime Minister. And I'll tell you why. I recalled when he got up, when the magistrate husbands, not magistrate, speaker husbands, was in the house. He got up, followed by his members of parliament on that side of the house, and he stood up and he flung his hand in the air and he walked out of the house, you know, because of what he thought that was not going his way.
Right.
You know, I thought that was disrespectful to the house as well.
Okay.
I think that you can walk out, make your bow, and walk out gently. But I remember here clearly, and I'm hoping that some media house would dig up that videotape and show the Prime Minister stopping halfway, almost by the door, and throwing his hand in the air. What kind of message are we sending by Prime Minister? And he's doing it right in the house this week.
Yeah.
With regards to Mary Isaac.
Yeah.
There are other people in the house that can deal with that. The Speaker can address.
Yeah, that's the job of the Speaker.
That's the job of the Speaker.
Yeah.
And therefore, there are a lot of things that you have to correct. But what's important, when the man at the top does something wrong, do we excuse him?
Yeah.
And then when somebody a little lower down do something wrong, we penalize them.
Yeah.
So Kenny Anthony, the Honorable Dr. Kennedy Anthony, has to respect himself, respect the House, and stop this bickering. And all the ministers of government, on both sides, must stop this arguing and shouting and throwing things and set example for a future generation. That's what I'd like to see.
Now, Lionel, we've been here for a while, and it is our general feeling that just before we end up, to wrap up, just as a thought of a wrap up now, what would you like to talk to end with?
Well, the country is charged with politics at this time, charged, and there'll be differences of opinion. I think that we have to put our thinking caps on and realize that everybody is entitled to make mistakes from top to bottom. And we must have a little bit of mercy and love in our heart for our country first. This idea about figuring that only one man can run the country is a joke. I remember in Dominica, 2 prime ministers died, and up came Roosevelt Skerrit, and he's now prime minister.
Right.
We didn't know of Roosevelt Skerrit before Pierre Charles, I think, died,
that's right.
and so on down. We have people in St. Lucia that can contribute to this country seriously, but because of the victimization that so often is talked about, because of the problems we have in this country when people, honest people trying to make a living, like myself, took 32 years to get a license to do what I wanted to do when I came back to St. Lucia. I see the cries of the gentleman at the airport with the small aircraft. These are things that tell me that there are St. Lucians that make sacrifices and come back to St. Lucia, and there are people out there in America and in Canada and the United Kingdom, around the world, want to come to St. Lucia to contribute to their country, but they are concerned about being in a position where they'll be victimized and they will not do what they want to do for the betterment of themselves, their families, and St. Lucians. This is what hurts me most. I am one that say I made the sacrifice because I came back and I spent years and years and years. But the good Lord has a way of changing your life.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was going to get into politics. Politics was far from my thing. I could leave and turn around and go back any day now. But I'm glad I'm here and I'm enjoying St. Lucia.
Well, at the end of the day, you know, it's unfortunate. You can be as good as you want in business, but the politicians can make life very miserable.
Very miserable for you.
Which is very sad. You know, it's like what is happening today in St. Kitts. I don't know if you've been following what is going on. And
Oh yes, I'm very cued on to that.
yeah, and you see a situation, Denzel Douglas was here. He was a speaker at the Labour Party convention. He's heading for a 5th term in office today. I do think, I know Denzel Douglas personally. I think he's a very astute politician. Under his watch in St. Kitts, it had its ups and downs, okay? But what happened recently was rather unfortunate because for one wanting to change the boundaries just a month ago. And again, you see what has happened. The High Court in this region ruled in favor of Denzel Douglas, and the British Privy Council ruled against it. And elections are on Monday, so it's going to be very interesting to see which direction.
And this really tells you a lot about what we should think about the political leanings or the minds of our people, because the CCJ comes into question. If that's gone to the High Court,
Yes.
and I remember Mr. Astafan jumping with glee on television that he won.
Yeah.
But here's the Privy Council saying, no, not so.
Yeah.
That puts us to think seriously about what we're doing and how the influences. And there's a gentleman out of Grenada, high-ranking politician, who says, and I saw the report saying that the influence of politicians. We have, for example, the issue with Babonneau, where Ezekiel Joseph won by only 2 votes. That case, what has happened to that case? Another election is coming up.
Yeah.
Gozile with Leonard Spider Montoot.
Yeah.
What is happening to that case?
Yeah.
Why does something as serious as that have to take 4 or 5 years before it's heard?
It's very sad.
It's very, very sad.
Well, Lionel, it was lovely having you here with me today, and we've just come to the end of our program, and this is Open Mic, saying to all St. Lucians, we do hope you've enjoyed our show today. It was a good cross-section. It was of what happened today, which was unlike our shows where we tend to focus on one, but I thought that with Lionel's, should I say, newfound profession, if I may say, that he could probably shed some light on what was going on, because he knows what is going on. He travels to the south of the island, to the north of the island, to the east of the island, doing a lot of digging. So St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, saying till next Sunday, goodbye.